get sent to this other world that looks identical to the village, but it's not. And the first thing that really tips them off is they run into Team 8.
Yep.
Which is Kiba, Shino, and Hinata. And at first glance, it's like, okay, they're here. I don't know why Hinata looks somewhat edgy, but then we notice that Kiba, rather than being a dog user, he's still a dog user, but now he loves cats.
Yes.
And Shino doesn't really say much, but then we see Hinata, who is a lot more confident and also kind of a bitch, which she then threatens Sakura, being like, stay away from my man.
Yes, stay away from my man Menma.
Yeah, Menma, because everyone's calling Naruto Menma.
And he hates Menma.
Yeah, well, he doesn't get it. Hey guys, I'm Bill, also known as the Barbecue Games on Instagram.
And I'm Alex, his sister, who brings only chaos.
And together we are the Gaming and Collecting Podcast, a mostly video game centered podcast.
But half the time, we just talk about anime.
And that collecting thing, well, that's mostly just an implication at best.
So come along and enjoy us on this adventure
as we discuss the games that shaped us. So, how you been?
I'm tired.
Yeah, I know.
It's been a long day.
Yeah, it's almost like we also just recorded a very negative podcast. And now we need to even it out with some not negative.
Woo.
So, we don't really have much of a how you been segment this time. We can share what we're drinking. I'm drinking a polar seltzer.
I just finished drinking a peach hint.
We're drinking water.
Yeah. We're staying hydrated.
Because we didn't drink anything other than coffee on the way to the convention that we went to earlier today, and that you heard about last week.
Yeah.
Spoiler warning: it wasn't good.
No. No good food.
And it was very kind of depressing, but
no good.
Besides that, I lost my phone.
You lost your phone?
Yeah.
Where'd it go?
Oh, it's over here. Anyways, so not much to talk about. I mean, we're drinking water. No drinkies yet. You're still... Oh, God. Alex is still tired.
I'm so tired.
But...
I'm so fucking tired.
Besides that, we're now going to change to a more positive subject.
Yeah!
Still anime-themed.
Yeah!
This time, we're going to talk about... We're doing our We're going to be doing our fourth iteration of Anime Swap. And for those who don't know, Anime Swap is our ongoing series where we take... Basically, it was our replacement for our anime episodes.
Yep.
And our whole thing is we take two animes, I pick one and Alex takes one.
Yeah.
We watch the movies and we essentially swap.
Or episodes.
Depending on our format.
Depending on the series.
So, basically, I pick two movies / episodes of a series, and she picks vice versa. And then we watch them both, and we give... basically our summary, or we talk about it, and then we give our opinions, basically.
Yes.
We usually alternate, so it's kind of cut up. Unless we're doing shows, then we just watch the episodes and then move on from there. Yeah. So we've previously done, obviously in the past, we've done Inuyasha, One Piece.
Yep.
So the whole goal too is that they don't have to be similar. We can just do random whatevers.
Yeah.
Ironically, this is probably the most similar in terms of style we've done.
Yeah.
For a swap, but in the past we did Inuyasha, One Piece, and then we did Dragon Ball and Mob Psycho 100. That was an interesting one. And then the most recent one we've done was Komi and Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah. Very different.
Yeah. So the most recent one is actually... This next episode is actually probably the most similar we've ever done. Naruto Shippuden, whatever. It's probably Naruto Shippuden, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
And...
My Hero Academia.
So two shonens.
Yes. But two very different shonens.
Well, they're different shonens, but they're also the most similar shows we've ever talked about.
Yeah.
At once.
Yep.
So... I guess the second most closest was maybe Inuyasha and One Piece in a sense. not close, but they were both adventure-ish stories.
Yeah, but
that's why I'm saying it's the closest thing.
Yeah.
Before that.
Yeah.
Granted, no animes are that similar, but
yeah.
that's what makes anime great.
Yeah.
So, for this one, we decided to do movies once again rather than episodes because, let's face it, there's 500 episodes of Naruto Shippuden alone, plus everything else, and My Hero is pretty up there too. And with shonen shows, it's usually more easier to just go with movies.
Yeah. Well, because I feel like a lot of times you can walk into a you can walk into a movie with like no background knowledge, and it kind of catches you up to speed enough to watch the movie.
I mean, I still think like when we watched One Piece Film Z, I thought that movie was legitimately really good.
Yeah.
So, besides the point, movies. We went with movies this time around.
Yep.
And so I decided to choose. My two picks were Naruto Shippuden Road to Ninja, or Naruto the movie Road to Ninja, which is one of the Shippuden films, and then Naruto the movie The Last, or I think it's called The Last Naruto the movie.
Yeah.
They have weird names. So those are my two picks, and then your two picks, which there's only so many My Hero movies, but
my two picks were the first one we watched was My Hero Academia Heroes Rising. Which I have an opinion on this. And then my second one was My Hero Academia 2 Heroes. So, I wanted to watch a different one, but
it's not out
on streaming, and I don't have it on DVD, or Blu-ray, so we weren't able to watch it, but I didn't want to watch Heroes Rising, and I didn't want to show Bill Heroes Rising because
yeah, that's the one.
It's not my favorite.
And that's one we watched first.
And that's the one we watched first.
That was my first introduction to My Hero Academia. But to be fair, though, that wasn't the first thing we watched.
Yeah.
The first thing we watched was Naruto The Last. And Naruto The Last is... So, I didn't watch Naruto growing up. I think I've said in the past. My best friend, actually, is super into Naruto. And I wanted to know what he was talking about, so I decided to watch the series. And I won't say I got hooked, but it got me interested enough.
Yep.
So I watched The Last, and I legitimately love The Last. I think it's one of my favorite anime films of all time. Mm-hmm. And what makes The Last interesting is it's actually one of the rare canon shonen films where it's like 100%... It 100% is canon to the plot, and like it actually like furthers the story along, which is pretty unique. It's essentially the ending to Shippuden in a lot of ways, and the last thing in Naruto's, I guess Naruto's personal story.
Yep.
In a lot of ways. So The Last starts out where it's actually a flashback where we get like a immediate like scene of it's Hinata as a child crying because she's being bullied for her eyes because children suck.
Aww.
And then Naruto, this was still when Naruto was hated by everybody and was lonely, goes to defend her, and then does the shadow clone jutsu, and then makes these two pathetic little tiny clones,
Narutos.
which get laughed at immediately, and then they beat him up and they rip his scarf.
Yep.
And
the scarf.
Yeah.
The scarf.
The scarf. The plot device.
Yeah.
So they beat him up, and then that was actually canonically Hinata's first meeting with Naruto, which means actually in reality he met Hinata before he met Sakura. Fun fact. Mm-hmm. But then it cuts after that to modern times, which is after Shippuden, where we get I think it's called the blank period canonically, which is that period between the events of after the war and Bardo.
Yep.
Like when they weren't adults yet, but they were like, well, they were like technically adults, but they weren't like adults. So we get kind of like, we show around the village where it's like you see kind of everything's in peace now. So you have all the adult Jonins and Naruto, because he's technically still a Chunin. But,
yep.
I mean, he's not even a Chunin, he's a Genin still. And
Does he ever get anywhere higher?
Well, he becomes the Hokage, but
yeah.
that's beside the point.
Genin. Loser.
I think they make jokes about that later. But the whole plot goes on, and it's showing Naruto's kind of popular. He's got his own fangirls now, not unlike Sasuke, who only appears a grand total of 2 scenes in this film and only speaks once.
Yep.
And it's shown that he's fully accepted now by the village, and everybody's basically living their best life. Like we see all the cast at various points, some more than others.
Mm.
I don't think 1010 has a line in this movie.
Womp, womp, womp.
I don't even know if Rock Lee does. I think if he did, it was very brief.
I think it was.
Because most of the focus is on team. So what happens is we get through the thing, and then there's a couple B plots in this before we get to the main plot where Hinata is trying to make a new scarf for Naruto because she wants to finally confess to him for real. And the whole overall... So basically, it's very apparent that the overall plot synopsis... Like, there's a plot, but the overall theme of this film is this is essentially the love story between Naruto and Hinata.
Yeah.
Like, if it wasn't obvious enough watching the show, this was finally cementing it permanently. Yeah. So we go through the whole thing, and it's kind of like... She's desperately trying to make this scarf to give to him because she wants to make up for the one that got destroyed when he defended her.
Yep.
And...
She's a failure.
Well, no, she makes the scarf, but every time something comes up, like he's either gets distracted by something else, or she can't get the nerve to go out. Like she's running back and forth in the house.
No.
And the whole problem is Naruto is dense as a wall.
Yeah.
And he doesn't understand what love is. Like he can't distinguish
he's
love.
Never really experienced.
Well, yeah, he didn't have parents growing up, and most people treated him like garbage for his entire life, essentially.
Yeah, so he doesn't really get it.
Yeah, and we eventually get to this point where she finally makes the scarf. She goes to see Naruto, and he has a different scarf on, and he makes a big deal about this scarf, but we don't really know where the scarf came from yet. And of course, Hinata loses her. She loses her drive to like do anything and basically just goes home, and then ends up at Naruto's apartment anyways. And then this is where the actual plot kicks off, where the Moon Clan, I forget their actual name, like they have these weird...
Moon people. The Moon Miners.
They essentially are trying to kidnap Hinabi, Hinata's sister, and then they kidnap Hinata. Well, they try to kidnap Hinata, but she stops them because they want some sort of weird moon prophecy thing. So then the mission becomes rescuing Hinabi and to stop the moon from crashing into the planet because the moon's falling towards the planet.
Yep.
So they go on a mission. It's essentially Naruto, Sakura, Shikamaru, Sai, and Hinata because Hinata requested to join.
Yeah.
And this is where you get most of like the character things. They go through this like journey. They end up getting on to the moon, which has like this weird planet world inside of it.
Yeah.
And there's one point where there's like this trippy dream sequence where they're like stuck in a genjutsu, and we get this huge symbolism of like the red string of fate because the scarf's red, so it's like the red string of fate kind of thing. And we're basically, it's Naruto's going through all these different scenes like from like the series and reliving them, only like now he's realizing Hinata was there the entire time. And he's finally waking up to the fact that he loves her and she loves him. And the whole time she's trying to like when they get out, they end up getting closer, and the main villain Tonari shows up again right before Hinata exits this area, and he essentially tells her something off screen that we don't hear yet, and then goes away because it was actually a doll. And they move on to the next area, and Hinata's tone has changed significantly at this point.
Yep.
Like she's a lot less outgoing, and she's not super like pursuing Naruto anymore. Now she's strictly about the mission.
Yep.
So eventually we get to this climactic scene after some character building where Tonari essentially takes Hinata away, and she goes willingly right after Naruto confesses his love to her. And it's all revealed later, but essentially he basically told her his plan, and Hinata realized the only way she was going to get to Hinabi was by going with him. And this is right after she finally gives Naruto the scarf, which is then destroyed immediately after Naruto gets all of his chakra.
And it looks like meat.
Yeah, okay, whatever. But
it does. Every time she made that scarf, it was destroyed. It just looked like beef or something, like ground beef.
I'm sorry that you think of food, but whatever.
Fuck you.
But anyways, so yeah. Naruto gets him.
I didn't do that the last episode.
Yeah,
we needed a good shit.
That one was literally shit.
That convention was shit.
Yeah, but anyways, moving on. So then, eventually Hinata tries to find like the secret, like what's making the moon fall,
The meaning of life.
No. I'm obviously skipping some plot points, but eventually, like, she gets caught and then gets put, like, basically mind controlled to marry Tonari because it's some prophecy shit. And of course, Naruto and the gang makes it back and they stop it. And then they have the big climactic fight on the moon.
Yeah.
With
the power of love.
Pretty much, because they combine their powers to destroy the thing, which turns out to actually be Byakugan eyes. And then he merges with the eyes and becomes a giant blob of eyes at one point, and then they defeat him.
The Stay Puft Marshall Man.
Yeah, in a sense, he really was. And then, of course, they finally, when they head back to the moon, head back to Earth after the moon stopped being destroyed, you get the climactic kiss finally, where they shoot up into the air and kiss in the sky right in front of the moon.
It took forever for that kiss to happen. I was just like, kiss already, get it.
Yeah.
And Bill was just like, they will.
Yeah, I'm like, it's very drawn out. It's very dramatic.
It was too dramatic.
And then we get the whole big kiss scene, and then it cuts to the credits, which is essentially their wedding, which is actually animated in the show later, but you get the wedding, and then there's a cut-off clip which shows them married with kids, which then eventually leads into Baruto. That was a very abrupt, abridged retelling of the story, but I love that movie. There's some great fight scenes. The story is very nice. Oh, and also the scarf that we find out at the end that the scarf that Naruto had that wasn't the one Hinata made from was actually his mother's scarf.
Yeah.
That's why he wanted to take care of it so much.
Aww.
So it was one giant misunderstanding, and in the end he keeps the hunk of meat, as Alex says it.
It doesn't even matter.
But yeah.
I'm in the mood right now.
So, what did you think of the last watching it?
I will say, I'll just say it now, I preferred the other one we're going to talk about. But I didn't hate this one. Like, I liked it. It was good.
It's a better story, overall.
It's a better, love story.
Well, it's also just, in general, it's actually, a story that goes somewhere, not so much a monster of the week, how to erase everything at the end because it's not canon.
Yeah.
And move on.
Sorry. No, I thought it was good. I thought there were some really great moments. Like, one of my favorites was, the dream sequence.
The dream sequence was cool because
they're going back in time and, when Naruto's realizing that he was in love with Hinata, that was I really liked that scene. That was one of the best scenes in it.
I did like the final climax battle where Hinata and Naruto actually get to fight together. That was fun.
Yeah.
Hinata rips Tonari's eyes, which are actually Hinabi's eyes, straight out of his skull, which is great.
It was well deserved.
Definitely my favorite incarnation of the cast members because I think they're at their most mature. They've all. I love when the characters reach that peak of maturity and in their personal growth. It literally is the end of their stories.
Yeah.
Because they've all reached that point of growth, and now they're basically at their peak. And I like seeing when they actually show the characters like this.
Yeah.
It's a different take, and it's some of the best characterizations. I really did prefer. It's my favorite Hinata by far because she's at her most confident.
My favorite Hinata's in the next movie. No, just kidding.
That one doesn't count. She's not real.
What? She's real to me.
Excuse me. But I love that the music's great. The animation is beautiful, and it caps off the series very well. Before Baruto showed up and completely redid everything.
Yep. Well, he does. He shows up in the end.
Yeah, he does.
With his sister. His superior sister.
But yeah, I love that movie. But anyways, moving on now, we get your first pick, which was my introduction to My Hero Academia, and oh boy.
Wow, you sound so upset about it.
I mean, you said it was shit.
No, it's not shit. This one's not my favorite movie. So the one we watched first was Heroes Rising, and we watched it first because I had that one on Amazon Prime, and I had a physical copy of the other one.
Because she was too lazy to plug the DVD player.
Yeah, well, my DVD, I don't have enough plugs by my TV, so I either have my Switch plugged in or my DVD player plugged in, and I always choose my Switch. So basically, like, the movie starts out, and it's actually, like, a car chase scene where it's centered around the League of Villains, and they're, like, have a box truck, and they're carrying something important, and they're trying to transport it. And you'll see, two of, like, the biggest heroes, Endeavor and Hawks, are there, and they're trying to stop them, and, as they're going, like, it's a big car scene. Bill was very upset because a Mustang got destroyed.
Yes.
A Mustang got destroyed, and the fight is going on, and then eventually the box truck containing whatever the League of Villains had falls off a cliff, and, womp womp. So, and in that box truck was actually a person in the capsule. Because the League of Villains doctor was experimenting on him. Because basically he has a copy of the main villain All For One's quirk, so he's able to acquire 8 more quirks besides his original quirk, which is a weather ability. So he basically has 8 quirks, but because of that, it also was, like, destroying him, because when you have 2 quirks, let alone 9, your body can't handle it, so it breaks down, I guess. And he basically needs the basic main plot is that he needs a special cell activation quirk in order to cure his disease that everything is causing. So kind of after that main go over of, like, alright, this is the villain man we gotta watch out for. Oh yeah, his name is 9. His name's 9.
Creative.
Yeah. It kind of brings you to the main characters of the show, which is UA's Class 1A. And they're kind of sent for plot devices. They're sent to this island called Naboo Island, and they're taking part of they're all taking part of, like, a work study, where they're basically on the island, and there's no heroes on that island. They're the only ones, and they're basically doing, like, a work study, working as heroes. So most of the tasks are mostly just, like, errands and stuff. You saw, like, they were doing little errands. They were doing little things just to help people out in the area.
Deku was late.
Deku was late. You get introduced to 2 of the main characters of the island. Hey, no scratching the couch. Ugh. Tillard is here. You get introduced to 2 of the main characters, Mahiro and Katuma. And they're 2 children that live on the island. Their father is away from the island doing business. So they kind of live alone, and the islanders take care of them. And those are, like, the 2 children. And what's special about one of them is Katuma has a cell activation quirk. So because of that, he ends up becoming a target. So while the Class 1A is on the island doing, like, helping out wherever they can, getting scolded by children when they're late, at the same time...
Only Deku.
At the same time, 9 finds Katsuma's father, who also has a cell activation quirk, and ends up actually going and stealing his quirk. But unfortunately, it doesn't work for him because it only works for a specific blood type.
Yep.
So, womp womp, doesn't work. So, but because he met the father, they end up looking through his stuff, and they find a picture of his 2 children, Katsuma and Mahiro. So their next step is now, alright, we gotta go find and see if one of the kids has the same quirk. So they end up going to the island with the intent of stealing one of the children's quirks.
Mm-hmm.
So the next thing that happens is eventually they do come to the island, and because their Class 1A is the only people on the island, only heroes on the island, they're basically have to fight the villains. And the villains also cut off all communication. They start destroying the whole island, and they're basically like, they have to do something. So when they first start fighting, unfortunately, a lot of the battles end up being lost because the main villain 9 and his group are actually pretty strong. So they were much harder to beat. They do end up taking out one of them, but the remainder 3, they weren't able to take out. So, in one of the main battles was Deku and Bakugo end up fighting Nine the first time. But it kind of is helpful, even though they end up losing the fight at first. They do realize that there's something wrong with Nine, and like he is losing energy, and like he's like something's wrong with him. So they end up being like, all right, that's a weak point that we can like exploit and try and win the battle. So after losing the fight, they're actually pretty injured, to the point where like they don't think they'll be able to heal them in time to fight them again. But that's where Katsuma reveals that he has the cell activation quirk, so he's able to help heal them. So he ends up healing them, and the Class 1A gets together and is like, all right, here's our plan. We're gonna do this. We're gonna follow this plan, and we'll beat him. So they end up going through the plan, and there's actually some pretty good like fight scenes, like because you get to see a lot of the teamwork.
A lot of fan service shots, like all the characters showing up.
Yeah, they definitely tried. So one thing I guess that happened in some of the other, well, in the first movie is that not all the characters actually get to see action.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah, which we'll get to later. But in this one, all the characters in Class 1A are seen fighting and getting into action at some point. So you definitely see a lot. So in the end, Bakugo and Deku have to fight Nine again, and they have to fight him together. And because Nine is so strong, because he has multiple quirks, as well as his incredibly strong weather quirk, he's really tough to beat. So they're struggling, they're fighting, and then in the end, Deku, whose quirk is One for All, ends up giving his quirk to Bakugo so that they could do double One for All. And I gotta say, in my opinion, it was pretty goofy. I won't lie. I thought it was really goofy. Some people loved it. I thought it was kind of silly. And they ended up using double One for All to beat Nine, and save the day. And one of the big one of the big controversies with this movie was definitely like, people were like, oh my god, like Deku doesn't have One for All anymore. What is he gonna do? But then of course they go, oh, Bakugo lost conscious right before
the transfer was complete.
The transfer was complete, so
As
you still have
wipe
One
away
for All.
any problem with this movie canonically.
Yeah. So after they beat Nine, heroes end up coming because one of the students in their class named Yagorozo, she has the ability to create objects from her like cells. As long as she knows the like molecular structure, she can create it from her body. She actually created a drone that was able to contact the heroes. So the heroes come and save them and help with the cleanup operations. And Deku is like telling All Might, he's like, I'm sorry, I gave it to him, blah blah blah. But then it's like, psych, he still has it, and Bakugo has nothing. And it also makes Bakugo forget everything that happened too. So it completely erased it, which I thought was just like, I mean, we're gonna do this.
This movie is no longer a canon nightmare.
I mean, yeah, I don't. This one was definitely not canon because it doesn't really fit. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if it was canon technically, but
it doesn't matter in the end because it never happened.
Yeah, and I don't know. I thought it was silly, but one of the dark things about this movie too is that one of the dark things too is that you see the villain Nine. Nine's gang gets apprehended by like the police and by the heroes, but Nine ends up crashing on a different island, and it's kind of like, it was kind of dark, but like he's at an island, and Shigaraki, who's the main leader of the League of Villains, shows up, and Nine is like, I'll do better, I'll do it next time, I'm gonna get him, like blah blah blah, blah. I have the quirk now, and Shigaraki's just like, nah, it just fucking like disintegrates him because his power is decaying matter. So
yeah.
and it's like, it was so it was like a dark ending to the film. Like it was just like, oh, he's fucking dead. Oh my god. So it was pretty dark of an ending. And yeah, after that, oh, and then like one of the cutest things, it did have a cute ending where when Midoriya says bye to Katama and Mahiro, like he makes sure to tell him that like he already is a hero, like because he like saved him and he's gonna be a great future hero, and it's really cute. Because Deku is like a really good, like he's a really nice main character. Like you gotta say he's a good main character. Like he's nice. I mean
he's not perfect. That's what I think makes him well.
No, he's not perfect, and he puts everything into it, and he's worked hard for everything he's gotten to, which I think makes him a super likable character. And it's like interesting, the relationship between Bakugo and Deku too it's interesting in this movie. They still haven't worked everything out, but it's kind of like they're making steps to work their relationship out.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, like I said earlier, this isn't my favorite movie.
I will say it's probably also not the greatest starting point to get someone into the franchise.
No, yeah, it definitely isn't, and it isn't where it wasn't the movie I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you World Heroes Mission, but I don't have that one, and it's not on digital yet.
Yep.
But I don't think it's a bad movie, but like even when I watched it, I was like, meh. Because I just think like, you'll see in the next one, there's definitely like, there's not really a story with this one. It's more, I think, fan servicey and fights.
It was kind of like One Piece Stampede, only not as interesting.
Yeah.
Stampede was at least funny and like entertaining.
Yeah.
This one was kind of like,
serious.
It was okay. I didn't think the villain was memorable.
Yeah, no, because like I didn't even know his name for most of the movie. I just knew him as multiple quirk guy with who keeps like
and even though even though it does have all the characters, it doesn't do a great job of actually introducing you to them.
No, yeah, it didn't really.
I mean, granted, the other one doesn't really either, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't think it was terrible, but it's not like one I would watch ever again. Probably.
Yeah. No, it's not my favorite. I think I bought it on digital only to watch it with another friend, and then he kind of did the same thing to me where he was probing me with questions, and I was like, I don't really like it. You know, like I told him honestly, I was like, it's not my favorite. I would rather watch different ones. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, guys, we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Did you hear that? The call of the wild Tillard.
And we're back.
We're back. Violence is never the answer.
No one believes you.
Help. I'm being attacked.
No, you're not.
Help. Tillard. Help me.
Yeah, that cat's like, you'd be in peril, and that guy would be like,
yeah. He'd be like, yeah, fuck you.
It's like, I don't have time for that, sorry.
Yeah. I love you, Tillard.
But anyways, guys, so continuing on now. So the other movie, obviously, we watched was, so ironically, we watched these both in opposite order.
Yeah.
But, so the second one we did was Road to Ninja. Well, the third one, technically. But the second Naruto film we did was Road to Ninja. Which is, so all the Naruto, Shippuden, and regular Naruto movies are pretty by the numbers, like, shonen films. Like, they have, like, a central plot. There's a character that's significant for the movie. They have their story, and then that's it. Mm-hmm. Road to Ninja has that, but it's also very different from the most. So I don't know exactly. It's not canon. Like, there's no way this one's canon at all.
No.
And I don't exactly know where it takes place canonically wise. Like, I guess it's before the final the Ninja War. But essentially, it starts out with they're on a mission, and suddenly all of the dead Atsuki, I think they're called, the Akatsuki or whatever, show up, and they fight them again, and they disappear, and it was kind of like, they're all dead. What happened?
Why are they back?
And it's revealed they're actually they were actually like summoned by another individual named. At this point, he's going by Marida, but he's actually another character.
Oh.
And after they finish the fight, they go back to the thing, and they're all the Chunins plus Naruto are trying to like plan for their Jonin exams.
Mm-hmm.
And Sakura's parents come and embarrass her there. Meanwhile, Naruto is in the background with no parents because there's a big theme of all the parents being there.
Yep.
And so Naruto then decides he's going to ask his teacher. I'm forgetting the teacher's name right now. Aruka. They ask Aruka if he'll sign off his Jonin exams, and then Aruka responds, "You're not even a Chunin yet. You're still a Genin. No." I don't care that you saved the village for not breaking the rules.
Yeah.
So then they end up getting into kind of a fight because Naruto's like being super emo because he basically Sakura is being overly dramatic and being all like, I hate my parents. I wish they were never around. And Naruto's kind of like, hey,
I wish I had parents.
You shouldn't really say that. And then he's all pissed off because his parents aren't around. Yeah. So then Naruto and Sakura end up meeting up again, and they end up running into quote unquote Marida, who sends them through I don't know, I'm not really sure if it's an alternate universe or it was a created thing that Marida created, but they get sent to this other world that looks identical to the village, but it's not. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that really tips them off is they run into Team 8.
Yep.
Which is Kiba, Shino, and Hinata. And at first glance, it's like, okay, they're here. I don't know why Hinata looks somewhat edgy, but then we notice that Kiba, rather than being a dog user, he's still a dog user, but now he loves cats.
Yes.
And Shino doesn't really say much, but then we see Hinata, who is a lot more confident and also kind of a bitch, which she then threatens Sakura, being like, stay away from my man.
Yes, stay away from my man Menma.
Yeah, Menma, and everyone's calling Naruto Menma.
And he hates Menma.
Yeah, well, he doesn't get it. And so they're kind of going around, and like they run into more people. So
well, I meant he hates the actual topping Menma in his ramen.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's the whole joke.
Yeah.
But so eventually they find Team 10, Choji, Ino, and Shikamaru, and Choji is skinny, Shikamaru is dumb. And Ino is a shrinking violet.
Yep.
All opposites. So we start seeing that all the characters in this world are like opposites of what they actually are.
Yep.
And eventually we get to a climax where eventually Sakura decides, okay, never mind, I'm just going to go home. And Naruto attempts to go home, and his home is now someone else's apartment.
Someone else's apartment, because he has this shitty apartment.
Yeah. And then Sakura kind of enjoys her day alone, essentially. So then we cut back, and they run into more of the shinobi, who are all still significantly different. Like, I think Neji's a perv.
Yeah, Neji, because Neji was using his eyes to see through the wall.
Oh yeah, he was using the Byakugan to peep on the girls, including his cousin. Ew. But anyways, and then Ten is accident prone.
Yes. And
Rock Lee, I still don't really understand what was up with Rock Lee.
Yeah, but he was wearing woman's underwear at some point.
I don't get what his thing was. But besides the fact they eventually they go to visit the current Hokage, because in this world Sakura's dad was the third Hokage.
Yeah.
And not Naruto's father. I mean the fourth Hokage.
Yeah. And
so Naruto and Sakura go to visit Tsunade, the current Hokage, only to be then greeted by Minato and Kushina, who are alive in this universe. And Naruto essentially gets to experience what it's like to actually have parents for the first time.
Yeah, what's like to have a mom and a dad. Part
of it eventually sends them off on this mission to retrieve this sacred scroll that Jiraiya left behind.
Yeah.
And during the mission, we get a lot more character development with Naruto and his parents for the first time.
Yep.
which eventually it's then revealed that they can't do anything with the scroll until the moon is at a certain point. So it just results with Naruto deciding, okay, I'm gonna just live with this life.
Yeah,
then.
I'm gonna just like enjoy having a family for once.
Meanwhile, Sakura is slowly realizing.
She's rubbing on my toes and it tickles.
Okay.
Tell her this back, just so you know.
I think they heard her.
Audience.
But
In case
what ends up happening is Sakura starts realizing not having parents kind of sucks,
yeah.
and Naruto is loving his life. But then we eventually get to the
Having
point.
parents is great.
Yeah. And then eventually we get to the climax now where they're going to this final encounter with this masked villain who has a really goofy voice. And during the whole conflict, he essentially hates Naruto. Like, everything about Naruto, like, disgusts him.
Yeah.
Which is, it then is revealed that he's actually Menma.
He's Menma!
He's the actual Menma, who is, like, essentially it's an evil Naruto.
Yeah.
And they have a climactic battle where we
You
get...
should have bite me.
No, you poked the bear.
No, I didn't.
But we get the final climactic battle with Menma and Naruto, where actually Naruto forms a temporary pact with Kurama to face off against with Menma's Kurama.
Yeah, and that's like the only time he ever like has. Ow! He has Ow! She just bit my elbow.
Well, you deserved it
I
probably.
didn't deserve that. What the hell? Why my elbow? Anyways.
Yeah, but it's a pretty good climactic fight.
Oh well, I was gonna say that's like the only time he fights with like Karma outside. Like usually he
I
does
think
the
it might.
merging
Usually
thing.
they merge. I think it might have happened once or twice.
Okay. Womp womp.
But anyways, so yeah, they get that, and then because they defeated Menma and quote unquote Maruda, they get sent back. Menma gets returned to normal, and they both get sent back to their world. And Naruto has one final like nice little like quote with his parents before he goes, just saying how much he's like happy, grateful for them. And they get back to the real world, and it essentially caps off with Naruto joking like, "Hey, Sakura, can we go on a real date?" Because they were still pushing that at the time.
Yep.
And it ends there on a decent note. So overall, I'd say as a movie, it's probably a better like kind of just one and done than the last was. The last is very much the last of Naruto. Like it's basically the final end game of that plotline. Road to Ninja is a bit more of a kind of funny what if.
Yeah.
Like it's ironically the funniest parts of the movie to me aren't even like the real battling or like the Naruto Sakura stuff. It's the alternate like the opposite characters.
Yeah.
There's just something like
Naruto
opposite.
steals the show, I will
And
say.
Kakashi.
Kakashi.
I love Kakashi where he's just
and Guy.
Yeah, where Kakashi's the essentially Kakashi's the goofball and Guy's the serious one.
Yeah.
And
Well, he's serious and depressed.
Yeah, and it's really it's like such a goofy dynamic. No, I love Hinata though, like Road to Ninja Hinata, just because she's super.
The opposites
bitchy
they
for no
really
reason.
do steal the show. Like they're just.
Oh yeah, and
so funny.
Shino's afraid of bugs. That was his opposite thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked the fight. The ending fight was really satisfying to watch.
And it was funny to see the Akatsuki like being good
Oh yeah,
guys.
they're all good guys in this world.
In this world, they're all just like.
Oh yeah, and Sasuke was a player. I forgot about Sasuke.
Oh,
that was
yeah.
Sasuke's thing. He's the ladies' man player. He's really insignificant actually in the grand scheme of things. Now that I think about it. Yeah, actually, honestly, all of them are when you really think about it. The only ones that really matter are Naruto and Sakura.
And their parents.
Yeah, and we don't actually ever find out what happened to Road to Ninja Sakura.
Yeah, no, that was interesting. It's like, where is she?
I don't know if the anime, because this arc is briefly acknowledged in the anime. It's not canon, but they do acknowledge the alternate world.
Yes.
So maybe I don't know. I think maybe Sakura is mentioned there.
Maybe.
It's also one of the only like appearances of Sakura's parents because they don't appear in the manga.
Yeah.
As far as I know.
Huh.
But yeah.
Girthy.
Yeah, a little. But anyways, so that was Road to Ninja. I prefer the last as a film, but Road to Ninja is probably the better experience.
I like Road to Ninja. I think though too, Road
The
to
problem-
Ninja.
so Road to
it's
Ninja-
my taste.
It's
in
not even
shows.
that too. It's Road to Ninja is also a better just kind of like introduction, like one and done, kind of like, oh, you want to watch something Naruto, we can throw this on, and it's like it's not gonna like you're not gonna be confused with all this shit.
Yeah.
For the most part. The problem with the last is you have a lot because it's canon and like very specific. You have a lot of like lore that you need to follow.
Yeah.
And it does explain a lot to you in the film, but it doesn't do enough, especially if you haven't watched the series by that point.
Yeah.
Like it's very much a send off for fans.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
And I was not fans, so
no. But you can't deny it's not a bad film.
No, I don't think it's a bad film.
It's
but
a good
if
film.
I were to choose which film I would watch again, I would watch Road to Ninja again. Because I enjoyed it more.
Calligraphy.
What?
Kurama was doing calligraphy on the moon.
Oh, that was funny.
He was very butthurt about it.
Yeah.
But anyways, now then our final film we watched was the other My Hero film, which was actually the first one.
Yes. So the other film that we watched was My Hero Academia 2 Heroes, which this one is actually probably my favorite out of all three of them. I like this one the best because I like the story behind it. So basically the movie starts out and it's actually like a flashback to young All Might when he was studying abroad in California. And basically the whole purpose of this flashback is to introduce his former classmate and friend, David Shield, who basically became like this world-renowned scientist, and he designs all of All Might's costumes, and a lot of his technology is used in some of the most amazing like hero support devices and technology in general. So they're really great friends. So the flashback is kind of just to set that like it introduces these two characters and like kind of sets you up to like who this character is and why he's important to All Might.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a pretty cool fight in the beginning because it's like set in California, so they have some American.
When you're a DC, if you're a follower of DC or Marvel comics, it is super like fan servicey in a lot of ways. Like All Might is very much a Superman parody in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
He's like a Superman parody with like Marvel characterization.
Yeah.
In a way, I guess you could say.
Mm.
No, but I got a ton of American. The series in general has a ton of American comic vibes.
Oh yeah, it definitely is very heavily inspired. So after the flashback, we go back to the present where it's All Might is actually on a plane with the main character Deku, and they're going to this island called Island, which is actually a moving and floating island, and it's basically the epicenter of all technology and hero support and crazy tech. And they're going after getting an invitation from David Shield's daughter, Melissa, because she wanted to surprise her father. So they get to the island and they're walking around. You can see there's a bunch of heroes, and one of the cool thing about this island is that unlike in Japan, you can actually use your quirks in public without getting in trouble, because usually you are restricted on the use of your quirks, which is not always a bad thing, because you kind of see it later in like future episodes of the series, like kind of the impacts of using your quirks in public can not always go well if you're not well trained. But it is kind of cool that anyone can go, and they have a bunch of things going on the island because there's this big expo coming up. So. Oh, and one of the main things, too, is that when All Might is on the island, he kind of has to stay in his All Might form, because no one can really know about his small might form, basically. So they're going around the island, and eventually they run into Melissa, who is David's daughter. And they have a nice interaction where they introduce Deku and they introduce Melissa and it's all that fun stuff. And then she takes them to her father's lab so you can meet him. So as they go into the lab, you'll kind of notice that that David is actually almost like shocked and almost like his face isn't immediately excited. It's more of like a "why the hell are you here" kind of face. Like, did you notice that?
Yeah.
When he first showed up, but then it kind of turned into a smile and happiness, and it all goes well. And after the reunion, like Deku introduces himself, and he's a big fanboy, and he's like, "Oh my God, you're amazing." He's all
Deku's a fanboy to many things.
Yeah, he's a big old fanboy. You'll see. So after that, Deku ends up going with Melissa, and she ends up showing him around Island. Well, All Might stays with David, and they actually are running tests on his quirk because David does not know about One for All, but he does know about how his quirk is going away. Which happens when All Might gave his quirk to Midori or Deku. But while it's happening, Deku is on the island and Melissa's showing him around, and they first after running around a little bit, they first run into one of his classmates, Uraraka, who has the gravity quirk, and Uraraka, Momo, or Yaoyorozu, and, I'm brain farting right now. Headphone girl. I'm brain farting her name. People are mad at me, but I can't remember her name. I'm sorry. So they run into them, and they're all just like, "What are you doing, Deku?" Like accusing him of being like on a date or something because girls. That's what they do. But then eventually they go and they sit down at a cafe and they all talk it out. And he's like, "Oh, this is Melissa. Like, I came with All Might, and she's showing me around."
Which is really funny because there's also a scene where it shows that all the other girl characters are actually in a hotel room somewhere.
Yeah, so all the girls actually, well, most of the students came. For the girls, they only had a limited number of tickets to the expo, so they had to like rock paper scissors for it, and only those 3 got to go in.
The rest all had to stay in the hotel.
Yeah, the rest had to stay in to the hotel.
Granted, Invisible Girl could have just like snuck in, really. Like, wouldn't you have noticed?
In all technicalities, yes, but anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so they meet at the cafe, and they end up running into a bunch more of their friends, but they end up chatting it out. And eventually Melissa invites them to like this gala before the expo, which is basically like this little party where a bunch of heroes will be going. Yeah, and that happens. And they run into a couple more classmates, like they're showing, like looking at some events and stuff, and that's where you see Bakugo and Kirishima and Todoroki are also here. Because obviously they're some of the most favorited characters, so they have to be in the movie, or people won't watch. So they end up running to them, but then they end up splitting off again, where Deku and Melissa go to her laboratory, and she ends up giving him this special gauntlet, which is called the Full Gauntlet. But another cool thing is that Melissa also reveals to Deku that she's quirkless. And that's really special to Deku because he was quirkless until All Might gave him the quirk. So
by eating his hair.
But yes, by eating his hair, Bill.
That's the first scene you showed me of the show.
I'm sorry. So I'm dying. So she ends up giving him the full gauntlet, and it allows him to use his quirk fully. Because one thing about One for All is that his quirk is so powerful because it's basically the past 8 users' quirks combined together. So every time they evolved the quirk as they used it, it got more and more powerful. So if Deku was to use it at 100% power, it basically breaks his bones because he can't handle it at the moment. So he's slowly building up to it. But if he uses this tool called the Full Gauntlet, he can use his power. He can use 100% of his power, which is cool. So after that, they end up going and getting ready for the gala. But at the same time, you're introduced to someone named Wolfram, who is a terrorist who secretly arrived on the island, and he takes control of the island security system. So basically, he's kind of like taken the whole island hostage in order to get what he wants. So All Might is already at the party, as well as David, his assistant, and a bunch of other people. And all the heroes end up being like captured, and Wolfram basically threatens everyone that like, hey, if the hero, like basically to All Might and the other heroes, if you do anything, I will kill everyone because I am controlling the security system. So basically, All Might is stuck. But Class 1A, the people going to the party, they are fine because they haven't gone into the actual party yet. They're still waiting in the galley. So they end up sneaking into the party area where they can talk to All Might a little bit using earphone Jack Girl's quirk, where she's able to communicate with him. And basically they realize that what's going on, that the security system is taking over. So Melissa and the team, Melissa with her smarts and knowledge of how the security system works, they go and their goal is to disable the security system so that they can save everyone. But at the same time, David and his assistant are end up being taken away by Wolfram and his like goons to the island's special vault so they can grab something from there. So as the hostages are being taken, the Class 1A ends up going through the building, and they end up trying to sneak around. And they actually have to go up a bunch of flights of stairs, and they're all like dying, which is pretty funny. And then after that, it ends up being barricaded at one point, so they have to find an alternate route. And that's kind of where they end up kind of splitting off, where everyone kind of ends up fighting their own separate battles. Which leads to some pretty cool fights, you'll see.
The fights were good. I'll give it that.
They had some pretty cool fights. But eventually Melissa and Deku end up like kind of off on their own to save her father and to save everyone in the building. So eventually they get up to where her father and his assistant is, and they find out that they actually orchestrated everything that was happening. Which was a really, like, I wasn't, I guess, like, if I looked more into, like, kind of, like, David's, like, facial expressions and stuff, and some of the other things, like, other hints, like, I was surprised when that happened. I was like, what? Like, I just thought it was this Wolfram guy who was bad. So that was, like, kind of interesting, and then, of course, after that, like, Wolfram betrays them because they think he's just an actor, but in fact he's actually a villain and he is actually here to steal everything. So he ends up double crossing them and he shoots both of them, and like they both like get gravely injured, which like sucks. And then he ends up taking David with him, and Melissa and Deku split up so that Deku can rescue her dad while she shuts off the computer system. And it leads to some cool fights, like you saw, like, because Wolfram's quirk is that he's able to, like, manipulate metal. So it leads to some interesting battles. Eventually, though, it leads them onto the roof where Wolfram is trying to escape with David in a helicopter, and Deku is trying his best to save him, and it's not going well, but eventually All Might appears to help save the day. But
he gets shot like twice.
Yeah, he does get shot twice, which isn't good. But what kind of happens is Wolfram ends up using the item that David was making, which was a quirk amplification device. So Wolfram's quirk is already really strong, and then with that device, it makes it 20 times stronger. But as they're fighting him, they also realize that there's something else going on with this quirk. And they find out that he actually has multiple quirks, meaning he's actually in cahoots with All for One, which is like the main villain of the show. And at this point in time, All for One was still in hiding, but they had a feeling he was there. So with the additional quirk, it's getting really, really hard for All Might to beat him. So All Might and Midoriya end up teaming up and beating him, and that fight is pretty sick, I will say. Like, that was a really cool fight. And unlike the last movie where it was like double All for One, this one's just better because it's like All Might and like his son, who's not his son, but he's basically his son, you know?
Yes.
Basically his son working together. And it's like, it was just such a cool fight. And honestly, I think it's really one of the very few fights where they fight together. Because in the series, like...
He's Small Might.
Well, he's Small Might, but also, like, in most of the series, he's either... All Might is fighting on his own, and they don't really ever fight together. So, it is cool to see them actually... It's, like, really the one time that they've actually fought together to beat someone. So eventually they do end up beating him with their combined powers. And it actually ends really well where they end up saving the day. David ends up going to the hospital, but he also really reflects on his actions, and he tells why he created the device. Like, he created the device for All Might.
Mm-hmm.
Because he knew All Might's quirk, he was losing his quirk somehow, not because he didn't know the secret of One for All. And he never told David the secret of One for All, mostly to protect Melissa in him. Because most people who get involved with One for All end up getting hurt by All for One. So David being one of his truest friends, he never wants anything bad to happen to him. So that's why he never told them. But David reflects on his actions. And he also reflects on how Melissa and Midoriya are like the new, like, they're the future. Like, they're the future of heroism. Like, Deku is the next All Might, and Melissa is the next him. And it ends, like, on a really good, like, it ends up on a really good, what was that? Ghost. So it ended up on a really good note where it was like, the world, like, he knows that the world is going to be in good hands even after All Might's quirk is gone. Which ends really nicely.
It will all work out in the end.
Yeah, it'll all work out in the end. And I think it ends with, like, All Might and Midoriya end up, like, enjoying the rest of iExpo along with all their friends, and then they end up flying back home together.
Yes.
And it leads into, like, the rest of the episodes. But I personally, like, I like this one a lot better. I really like the characters they added in this one. Not that I didn't like Maharu and Katsuma, but I just thought, like, David and Melissa were cool characters, and the fact that Deku had someone he could directly relate to,
yes,
like, with his past quirklessness, like, was something, like, awesome, too. And I think it made him feel better, too, because he was like, you know, like, even if I didn't have this quirk, I could still be doing something really great. But I'm going to take this tool and do the best I can with it. Which I thought was cool, and I don't know. I just think this one had
better than the second one. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I completely agree. Like, I think the story on this one was much better than.
I mean, it still doesn't do a great job of introducing you to the characters, other than All Might. It does a great job telling you who All Might is.
Yeah, you definitely know.
Honestly, I think if they made a whole movie of just young All Might, I'd watch that.
I think that would be cool. I would like to see a young All Might. It would be interesting to see, too, especially... Well, and as the anime goes on, it actually shows more and more of his past as well. Especially with, like... I've told you a little bit how, like, One for All ends up also being the quirks of the past users. So he ends up learning more about the past users, and especially the one that All Might was closest with, because there's a lot of plot twist things that happen that I don't want to explain to you because it does spoil so much for it that hasn't been animated yet. So it is interesting, but you definitely find out more, and it would be cool to see, like, an All Might centric movie, like young All Might.
Yeah.
Up until now.
Where he's Small Might.
Yes. Not all the time, but most of the time.
Well, now he's all the time.
Wooster Might. All Might Jr. Hey, All Might. Woo Might.
But, yeah. So that was anime swap number 4.
Yes.
Definitely, it took us a while to watch these movies, believe it or not.
No, yeah. Well, we've just had, like, quite the week.
That we did. But, anyways, guys, once again, thanks for joining us on the Gaming and Collecting Podcast. The Gaming and Collecting Podcast can be found on all your major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify, and we are made on Anchor Podcasts. And you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter, along with Good Pods, and the episodes eventually come out on YouTube. I don't know when I'll get to it. It's
He'll do it at some point, but just watch it on Spoofy for now.
Yeah. But anyways, guys, thanks again for joining us, and we will see you all next time.
Do you want to tell her goodbye?
No, don't do that to the poor cat.
You act like I abuse her. That's horrible.
Look at her face. She's like, I don't want to. Don't. No.
No. She looks... No.
She's like, don't do it.
No. Alright, I'll leave her be because she looks real cute over there. Yeah. But she's looking real cute.
All right. Well, anyways, guys, once again, we will see you all next time.
See you later, alligator.
Bye.
Bye.